welcome to our third session from the 0 to 6 age group today, the first of a three-part series from Maybank. So today's topic is discipline without drama, avoid the myth of terrible twos. So if you're a parent, you've heard the terrible twos, and then 3 years old is what?
Terrible trees.
Teenagers.
What? Teenagers.
Teenagers.
Yeah,
terrible
right.
two, terrible three, terrible four. No, okay, the joke is, so the purpose of today, right, is to bring for us, right, a concept of parenting that will be so different, such that we enjoy our parenting journey. And so today, I'm very pleased to introduce us two very wonderful guests. Vivian is a parenting coach, the author of Decoding Your Child, and she is passionate about heart-to-heart connection. And how do we, as parents, understand our child? She homeschooled 3 of her kids.
Two.
So she homeschools her 2 kids, which is a very different path chosen. Yeah. So we'll hear more about that as we go into the session. And Andrea is a psychologist with the psychology practice, and she's also doing her master's at the same time. So I love the spirit of not just being a professional, but continually upgrading herself. So today we have very different perspectives on how do we parent our kids differently, right? So I want to start with traditional versus modern parenting, because the reality is how we parent today is an impact, and it's very natural offshoot of how we were parented. Right? So I want to start with you, Vivian. How did your... sorry. So let's start first with the definition of discipline. So Webster says that it's to punish and train with regards to having the result of moral character. So Vivian, I just want to hear.
Okay.
What's your take as a responsive parenting coach? What's your take on this word discipline?
For me, discipline has always been, going back to the Latin root, discipline is always about teaching, it's about instruction. Not the punishment part is actually different from, it's not part of discipline. Discipline is about teaching, it's about, instructions. And so I see discipline as a means of us as adults, as parents, to guide our children to learn whatever it is we need them to learn, be it in a certain form of behavior, be it in manners, or the kind of moral character that we want them to have. It's about teaching them in a way that is effective. And then the question is, what is effective? So to me, effectiveness is teaching in a way such that the lesson sticks. Because there's no point teaching, and then it's like exam, you cram all the work, and then by the time exam is over, everything you forget. So for me, discipline is I take discipline in the long-term view, and I would teach in a way that I make sure when I'm not around or when nobody else is around, the child will behave in the way in which it is right. They will know it, and they have internal discipline. They do not need to depend on external authority or someone telling them, you have to do this or you have to do that. So that's the way I would approach discipline.
That's what true learning is about.
Exactly. That's what true learning is about. Yeah.
I so love what you say, because it's really the internalizing of it, not just the theory knowledge.
Yes.
So one of my jokes I always say in Singapore, sometimes we breed tadpoles, overdeveloped head and undeveloped bodies, right? But it's really the exercising of those muscles and those and those values and principles that actually shows a very holistic child come young adult, right?
Yes.
And for you, Andrea, as a psychologist, what do you have to say about drama?
What is drama to start with, right? Whose idea of drama is it? What does drama mean? Is drama something that we think is intolerable? Something that we see, like, for example, it's very common for children, toddlers, to melt down, right? But what are meltdowns? And are meltdowns really just drama? Is my child, my 2-year-old who's lying on the ground, arms flailing, legs kicking, screaming, crying, just, everything is not okay just because you cut the sandwich wrongly or wrong flavor but they asked for that flavor and then suddenly they don't want it? Is that drama? Because I think very often parents are very quick to judge, behavior as something that is attention seeking, or that is something that is intolerable, something that's shameful because they're doing it in public. Child is crying and everybody's looking. I think it's very quick for parents to then say, wow, there's a lot of drama. And the response would be immediately to shut it down, stop it, stop crying, behave yourself. I think that's a very common response. So when we talk about drama, what is very often, I think the connotation is we see it as drama. But is it truly drama coming from the child? That's a different thing. Because a lot of the times, it really is just a child struggling to manage their emotions. They're just having a hard time because they're hungry, because they're sleepy, because the weather is hot, happens a lot for us. Whatever reason, there's a label in their clothes that they don't like, but sometimes they don't have the words, especially when they're below 2. They don't have the words to tell us that I'm frustrated because of something. They don't know. All they do is they just have these very, very big feelings. And then when they have these very big feelings, if they don't have the vocabulary to string a sentence to say, I'm hot, I'm uncomfortable, what's going to come? It's just going to cry. They're just going to be wailing, but then as a parent, you're like, what do you want? Just keep quiet. And actually, when we do that, we're not really attending to their needs. We're not really listening to them. And then we just see it as drama.
I love the way you deconstruct that, because that's true, right? And I would say it really comes from the way we were parented. Because I was taught to keep quiet, stop screaming so loud, neighbors are looking, people are staring, and then I'm like, in my mind, I don't really care. But then through many repeated messages, I'm told that you should be caring about what people think and how they view you.
Yes.
So I want to bring this, right, from our own experiences, because while we parent differently, there are a lot of nuances comes from how we were parented. So for you, Vivian, how did your parents discipline you or teach you, if that's a better word?
I was, when I was about this age, 0 to 7, that age, I was brought up by my grandparents. I was a weekend child, so I spent my weekdays with my grandparents. And being grandparents is very traditional. Everything is by the cane. You don't listen, you get a stroke. If I make too much noise, I talk too loudly, I get chili smeared on my lips, so that I will keep quiet, that kind of things. So it's very harsh upbringing. To make sure that I toe the line and I listen. But having said that, I am also doted on. So I know that my grandparents love me, and my uncle, who at that time was living with my grandparents, they all love me. But when I misbehave, then the discipline or the punishment, I would say it's not discipline, but the punishment comes down really harsh and very fast. Yeah.
Understand. Got it. And for you, Andrea, anything similar or different for you? The way you were parented?
Perhaps not in that way, not in the chilly way, but I do think that my parenting was also very strict. I think there's it was always known, what you can do, what you can't do, very strict set of sort of guidelines that you should follow. And a lot of times it really is about behaving yourself, and behaving yourself means you sit still, finish the food on the table, just not make a fuss about anything. Yeah, do your studies well.
Yeah. Talking about studies, for my own parents, my mom, she hardly uses the cane unless my sister and me fight. Then she will use the cane. But most of the time, the cane comes out when I don't score. I don't score 100% on my exams or my tests. So if I just, I miss by 1 mark, I get 1 stroke. If I miss by 5 marks, I get 5 strokes of the cane.
How soft?
You think what? So it's so to me, that academic excellence, it's not something that it's pleasurable, because I have to, otherwise I get punished when I go back home. So I actually fear getting my results. Yeah. And that of course it triggered me to think differently. That's why I end up homeschooling, because I don't want to end up having parenting my kids in that manner. Yeah,
I understand. So you take your kids out of the system that used to cause you stress.
Yes.
And I love what you are sharing, because there's this Chinese idiom, right? 打是骂，打是爱，骂是疼. If I hit you means I love you. If I cane you because it's my sign of affection to you. English, they will have sayings like you spare the rod and you spoil the child.
Correct.
Yet we know, right, that we are in this juncture where probably disciplinarian methods are beginning to take a backseat.
Yes.
And there is the rise of what I would call conscious or even responsive parenting.
Respectful
parenting methods.
Yes.
And yet, so I want to bring us into this. Vivian, how do you get your child to do what you want them to do? Because last time it's very simple. You don't sit down, kid, you. Right? You shout too loud, put chili, right?
Yeah.
But now, sit down. No. And then at 3 years old, why you so
Yeah, for me, I think I have the luxury of being a stay-at-home parent. From when my kids were young, so I got the opportunity to really spend a lot of time with them. And the way I've always spoken with them and talked to them is always very respectfully. And I very rarely would use authority that I am not. But it's always a case of explaining. And it's like, okay, now it's dinner time. We will sit at the table. And if you leave the table, means you don't want to eat anymore, and I'll clear the food, right? And so that's a very natural consequence. Of course, the child will run around, and then I'll say, okay, come back to the table. But I will not say it too many times. By the time meal is over, that's it, we clear. And then if you're hungry, we will have to wait till snack time. So the child learns that there's natural consequences for whatever. So it's not an immediate, I will not get immediate cooperation. But I will get, over time, they learn it. And so if up to now, then, my children will always be at the table. They'll sit down, they'll eat. Of course, not they're old already.
But you don't get into a tug of war with them.
I don't, because it's a power struggle, and you can never power struggle and win a child unless you exert might, which I don't like to use. So I want them to respect me, not fear me. Because when they respect me, then whatever I say next time, even when they are like now, my oldest is 19, and when they respect me, then whatever I say, it will still carry weight. They will still listen and they will still respond. So I that's why I say I take discipline as a very long-term thing, because I want that cooperative relationship to maintain and sustain even as they go into adulthood.
I love how you have this long-term perspective of discipline or teaching our children, because if I need you to do something now, there's pressure.
Correct.
And naturally, when there's pressure, either you crack, I crack, or both crack. Correct. And there's a huge explosion.
That's right.
But when I have a longer view perspective, I am removing the pressure completely. And now in this safe space, I'm like, hey, I would love you to wear your shoes, for example. And there is less of that pressure cooker that I subject us to. Right? Okay, before I continue with you, Andrea, I just remembered something. Viewers, please send in your questions. And please send in your questions. And for those of you who, please send in your questions, because we've got two very wonderful experts, so that it won't be a huge avalanche of it later, okay? So, Andrea, how do you set boundaries, for your kids to follow, or even for your clients?
Yeah, I think the thing about boundaries, right, is that you need to set it consistently.
Yes.
It needs to be something that is firm. And boundaries doesn't mean that it is like cement block, where it is very hard and that it is like, that's it. Yeah, an absolute in that sense. I think the thing is that for very young kids, it's very hard for them to understand boundaries. So it really then becomes you just need to be firm about something. For example, bedtime, meal times, doing certain things.
Yeah.
And as you consistently do it, even of course you're going to expect them to sort of rebel against it. They're learning to say no. They're learning what the power of no is, and the power of no is very important. And you want to learn to respect that.
Yes.
But at the same time, just because they say no doesn't mean that, okay, then you cave and that your boundary then goes every single time. But really it is setting it, but also being able to empathize with them, to say that you understand why they're saying no. So for example, I don't want to get out of bed. So my 4-year-old this morning, I don't want to get out of bed. No. So I know you're sleepy, I know that you're tired, I know you don't want to go to school, but we're going to be late if you don't get up, let's go. So you empathize with them. Same thing, I don't want to leave the playground. Big thing,
Yes.
always,
Yes.
Even from 2 years old, 3 years old, they'll know, right? Because it's so fun, they don't want to leave the playground. But saying, yes, I know that it's fun, we had good fun, I know you're not ready to say bye yet, but we do have to go because it's time for dinner or whatever it is. And then you say, okay, say bye-bye to the playground. No tussle about, okay, 5 more minutes, no tussle about 10 more minutes, let's go. And so that, in a way, is already setting those very clear boundaries of what it is that you require from them.
I love the two things that you covered. Number one, allowing our kids to own their voice, because being able to say no is going to be serving them in future,
Yes.
compared to if we,
Yes.
as the authority figure, is constantly overruling
Yes.
by saying, I really don't care, I'm your mom, and play the position card, right?
Yes.
And then in future, right, what if a bully comes, or what
Yes.
if someone in authority abuses them?
That's right.
They would have lost their voice, and we train them too.
Yes.
Right? And the second part, you talk about empathy. Like even this morning, so I had to rush here, I had to put my son at childcare. So I told him, and he's been having late nights, right? So for 2.5 weeks, he hasn't been going childcare because the sisters are at home, so he decides that he will have his time out from school. So this morning, I was like, you have to wake up now because we are late. No, I don't want to go to school because 2.5 weeks, right? And I was like, yes, I know. So even though he was crying, I mean, to be very authentic, I carried him, changed him, and I told him, hey, I'm sad too. And that moment I said that, right, telling boy, mommy is sad, I'm sad, right? And he actually calmed down. You can see the color, like really, because he finally got that someone gets me. Mom is not fighting me, pushing me. Mom is with me in my tantrum, with me in my lowest. And I think when our kids experience that they're not alone, they don't have to fight anymore.
Yes.
But they are being supported. And then I helped him make sense. So I think when we went down, he stopped. And then I was explaining to him.
It's always about the debrief when they calm down.
Yes.
When they
Yes,
calm down, right?
When they have calmed down.
That
Because
is-
when
yes.
they are in that peak of it, you can't, you know,
Can't
they're
talk to them.
just all emotions.
Yes.
I think both can't, because we try to tell them, then they don't get us, then we get
Then we get
angry.
upset.
Because
Yes.
I'm trying to tell you what's correct, why can't you get it? Then in their mind,
Yes.
I can't get it because you never allowed my expression to be gotten to begin with.
So if everyone has calmed down, then okay, let's talk about what happened just now.
Correct,
I'm
correct,
sorry,
yeah.
I was upset. You know. We do apologize too as
Oh, yeah,
parents.
yes,
all the
yes,
time. You know.
absolutely,
I'm sorry I
absolutely.
shouted at you just now. I
Yes.
was upset that this and that happened.
I think that's perfect because in the olden days, olden days, not like that, but it was very hard for parents to say no. Even when, or even teachers, when they know they made a mistake, they won't, because it's almost a loss of faith.
That's right.
No, you're wrong also, never mind. Just keep quiet and then let it pass and don't do it next time. But without the acknowledgement, right, there is sort of like a barrier, a wall, and then we unconsciously model that for our kids. Then they don't apologize also, and then we make them, right? We try to force them. I want to bring this circle of security. So parents, if you are looking at this infographic, there's this circle of security. Andrea, do you want to share a bit more
Yes.
about
I mean, it's just a way of working and helping us. It's just a model to help us kind of learn how to attend to our children. This is a very core component of what we call attachment parenting, because end of the day, we all know that attachment forms in the years between 0 to 2 years old. Those are the formative years. And then those core patterns of attachment can influence the way that we relate to people for the rest of our lives. So, I don't want to go into the theoretical part of it, but essentially as a parent, what we want to do is we want to be that secure base and that safe haven. You see the top of the hand and the bottom of the hand for our children, because we know that for children to form secure attachments, they need to have the freedom and the safety to go out and explore the world. This is very much like the child at the playground, right? Like they'll go to the playground, then they'll look back to make sure that mom is there or mom's looking at me. And then after that, they will, after playing a while, they run back to you for whatever reason, give you a hug, a cuddle, show you something, and then they'll run off again, and then they'll come back again. So this is always a circle, not just in the playground, but all the time, all the time. If you only just start to pay attention to it and observe your children. So the whole point of it is that we need to be attuned enough to our children to know when they need us to be there, that secure base, to go and explore the world. And, this is where the drama thing that we we're talking about earlier comes in, right? When they are so distressed and they need us to be there for them, for us to be that safe haven, that when they come back to us, we are able to attune to them. So sometimes that can come in form of tantrums. Which we then might think that, oh no, this is a time for discipline, but actually it is not. This is the time for you to go to them and to be that safe person to comfort them.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's such
Absolutely. So beautiful.
I think it's such a beautiful analogy, especially when you talk about the hand like that, and that is for us to remember. It gives a visual to remember whether at the playground or even through their growing years in school, where the time may be longer. So at the playground, it's probably within half an hour, 1 hour. But in school, it's like 6 hours has passed since they see us. So when they come back, and all they want to, and that's why a lot of people say, right, the teachers will tell you, your kids are wonderful in school. Go home, but you don't know the bread they are at home. And a lot of parents think it's not schizo, it's just that kids feel safe enough to finally just release all the tension that they've been trying to control in the spaces outside that they don't feel safe. So actually, it's a good thing.
Yeah. And I would also add that this circle of security happens not just for young kids, but even for teenagers. Like for mine, my kids are my older two are 19 and 17, and my 19-year-old most of the time he's in front of the computer coding or whatever, right? But once in a while he'll just come out to the living room and he'll say, you know, he'll talk to me and then he'll tell me something about he's just learned and just to get some FaceTime, some connection with me. And no matter what I'm doing, unless I'm on call, you know, on a Zoom call or whatever, but no matter what I'm doing, I always put it down and I will have eye contact with him and just talk and just listen, even if I don't have anything intelligible to add to his whatever research, right? But just that connection and acknowledgement, okay, I see you, I hear you, I know what you're talking about. That gives them that sense of, okay, I've got my emotional,
I've heard, my cup is filled.
Yes, my cup is filled, and then they'll go back and they go do whatever it is they need to do. Even for teenagers, so as parents, I think we just want to be a little bit sensitive and not say, don't go and bother me, don't go and disturb me, you know. And I see that sometimes in parents, especially let's say in a playground or even, you know, at a mall or whatever, don't just go and do whatever. And it hurts me to see the child being rejected because the child is obviously trying to connect. And I think that sense of connection is very important because they know, my parents are always there for me. You know, there'll always be somebody listening to me, and they will feel safe to come to us whenever they want. And to me, that's, I think, one of the most important things for me. When I parent, I'm always thinking, okay, whatever reaction I have, will it stop my child from coming back to me next time if they have a problem? Because if I'm harsh when they make a mistake, then they're never going to come back to me. You know, and so whatever mistakes they do, my first instinct is always I will empathize, I will connect with them, and I will, you know,
be the safe person.
Be the safe person, and let them know it's okay. I know you made a mistake. You know you made a mistake, and it's fine. Let us now move on and say, okay, what can we do about this? What can we learn about this? Yeah, I think that's very important for our children.
The classic example is when the child gets hurt.
Yes.
Then the parent goes into scolding mode. I told you not to do that, right? Instead of attending to the hurt.
Yes.
Wonderful. Exactly like my husband, we were out cycling and then the child fell. Why you fall? And then I look at him in shock. I'm like, but the child is starting. Yeah, but why you fall? But why you go so fast?
I told you not to go so fast.
I told you, right? And then why didn't you wait for me?
Yeah.
So, but then I think it's very wonderful because I realized that my husband was doing it unconsciously.
Yes.
Where he said, but I was always scolded when I fell. Then I said, I know, but in the moment, and as we processed that later, he was like, yeah, of course, I lashed out because I was sad.
Yes.
I was scared. I was pained by her falling, and I wanted to prevent it.
Yes.
But given a bit too late to prevent, already fall down, scold because that's the way that he was brought up. So over time, through repeated reminders, and now when something goes wrong or they are hurt, he holds back. You can see the face change, but at least nothing comes out of the mouth. And I applaud him. Yes, I applaud him because well done. I mean, like, we are all
the debriefing about it can come later. But attend to the hurt.
Yes. Hi, are you? You know, how are you? Are you okay?
Where's the pain?
And even if it's a learned behavior, parents, this is what I want to say. Because for a lot of us, if it was not natural, we never were on the receiving end of that love and tenderness. Even if it's fake in the beginning or unnatural, learn it. Because when we first learn a new skill, it always seems awkward and uncomfortable. But keep at it. After a while, empathy is a skill I believe can be learned.
Yes. We grow that muscle of being able to empathize, of stopping ourselves from lashing out. You know, it's a muscle that we all have to exercise and grow it. It's not something that we can just catch it. Today I listened to this webinar and so therefore I will be able to do it. It's not. So we will fail over and over, just like our children will fall and fail over and over. But slowly
that's the
grow.
important thing for parents, you know, it's okay to make mistakes because there are no perfect parents. We just need to be good enough. And when we do make mistakes, just go back and repair it. You know, that's all. Just own up to it, apologize, because that's what we're modeling for them.
Wonderful. I love that. So, you know, in many mistakes I've made where I'm angry, after I shout and then when I've come down, I'll go, I'm sorry I shouted, right? And it does acknowledge and clear that up.
Yeah, I think that is important because whenever the child feels that they have been wronged, there's resentment that is built in. And if we do never apologize, that resentment builds and builds and builds. And by the time they're teenagers, they will say, you know what, you're not worthy of my respect because
right. You don't understand me.
Yeah, you don't understand me. When you wrong me, you've never apologized. So why should you ask me to apologize? And that's where we see a lot of so-called teenage rebellion. But it's actually something that could have been prevented.
It was seeding all these years underneath, right? So talking about this, right, I've got some questions coming in. So I want to cover them as we go along. How do I handle a kid with no self-control? So we need a bit more context for that. But do you have anything to say? And a second one, how to make a kid sit down and eat without the TV? So I think, again, parents, we do have our ideal of what we want. Oh, you got no self-control, that's one. Or the other one, I want you to sit down and eat without TV. But what is the process that we can then achieve the ultimate goal that we want? Anyone?
I feel that if the child has been ingrained with the availability of having the TV in front of them when they're eating, it's kind of hard to say, okay, right now we go cold turkey and we don't do it, because then you have to deal with the tantrum of them not having the TV, and of course at that time they will also be hungry because it's meal time and they're not having their food, so we will end up having to fight with food. But I would say that what is helpful, at least for me, is let's say when we're out and we obviously don't have a TV and we don't have a screen, then when we're out and we're eating, that's when I will seek the idea, look, we can all have a very good meal together and we do not need to have a TV. Of course, it also depends on what the child, what kind of environment the child is in when they're having their meal. Are they alone eating and therefore it's very boring, they need to have a screen? Or is someone having a meal together with them and therefore, there's some conversation, there is some interaction, and therefore they do not need to have the TV. So I think we very often we just say, oh, I don't like this behavior, I want to stop this behavior. But we have to put ourselves in the position of the child and say, okay, so if I don't have this, what is the environment that I'm in that will help me to so-called distract, not really distract, but put me in a different environment where I do not need a TV to entertain me, right? So I think when there is interaction and parents take the time, or even if it's a helper or whoever it may be, having that kind of interaction with the child when they're eating, then the food becomes pleasurable. We can enjoy the textures and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also like you say, looking at the environment and asking, are there also other people who are doing this, modeling this behavior?
Yes.
Are they, it may not be the TV, but are they on the phones? Is everybody during meal times just disconnected and doing their own thing or listening to something? And I think it is very much depending on how old the child is also. Of course, younger, it's going to be harder to reason in that way or to help them to understand. But I think it is a gradual thing also, where you're taking away something, but you must kind of replace it with something positive too. It's not just, okay, no more TV, switch it off, that's it. And then the child will be left wondering, what's going on. And of course, then you're going to expect some sort of fight.
Yes, exactly. I love what the two of you are leading to. Just like we don't study, right? Just before we enter the exam hall, right? We don't do that. It's daily revision. But sometimes in parenting now, we expect now. I tell you now means now do. But if we can just, prepare, set them up for success, and just like whether in food court or slowly in conversations or explaining to them or even cutting it down. So probably it used to be a 45-minute session. Drop it to 15 minutes, share with them why, right? I think together, as it becomes a process, it's something that they can accept because it's gradual and it has their involvement. So I think the other piece that would make a difference is where they understand and there's their involvement. They have a say in it, like what we brought up earlier.
Andrea brought up the point about the playground earlier, which I think a lot of parents have that problem, because when I bring my child to the playground, I always see kids, who are crying and they don't want to leave. Okay, so what normally I used to do when my kids were young is always I will tell them, okay, I will pep talk them before we go to a playground. I say, this is where we're going and we go to this playground. It's going to be really fun. You're going to have a great time, but we can't stay there forever, which means we have to leave. And we're going to the playground because I want you to have fun. Because, they want to know what's in it for them. We want them to cooperate with us. They need to know what's in it for them, right? So I will tell them, oh, I bring you to a playground because I want you to have fun. But we also need to leave at some point. And when we have to leave, I will give you some warning and then we have to go, and you cannot cry. Because if you cry, it means that you are upset, then I don't want to bring you to the playground where you're going to be upset. If you're going to be upset, then I'd rather we don't go to the playground. So you decide, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to the playground and leave with me? Or do you want to go to the playground and cry? You know, and then of course we go to the playground. The child will of course say, I'll go to the playground, I'll go to the playground. Okay, fine. So we will all go to the playground, right? And then they'll have fun, and then I'll tell them, okay, we have 10 minutes. And then they'll play the 10 minutes. I say, okay, take your last slide, whatever, okay, we have to go. Of course, there will always be that one child who doesn't want to go and will start to like, I want to stay, it's so fun, whatever. And I say, okay, you decide. If you want to cry, then it means that you're going to be sad, which means we cannot come back. Do you like this playground? Yes, I do. Okay. Do you want to come back? Yes. Then we have to say bye-bye playground, and then we have to go. Because for the child, that, yeah, I want to come back to this playground. This playground is fun. I don't want to cry because it means I'm never going to come back. It's what's in it for them. It's not what's in it for you, mom, because you want to go home and cook. They don't care about what we have to do. They care about what they want, right? And so we give them the incentive to say, you know, we already agreed we come here because we want to have fun. We want to be happy. But if you're going to be sad, then forget it. You know, there's no point we come. And more often than not, they will cooperate and they'll say bye-bye playground. And then we'll leave. And then when we leave, I will always praise them. I say, you did a great job, you know. Now
It's
I
so
can
sad
see
to
that you're
leave
very
the
happy.
playground, huh?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
fun.
It was so fun,
Yeah.
you know, but
Don't
I'm so
come back
happy.
again.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that, you know, you can say bye-bye playground and then we'll definitely come back again because I can see that, you know, you're okay to leave. And they're very happy. So the next time we go back, I'll tell them, remember that playground? And then so it keeps cycling up. And it takes time to develop to the point where they will automatically, bye-bye playground, there's no reminder and say, do you remember why we're here? So, yeah.
I love what you say because what you've done is you've built that consistency where the fun time, however long it is, half an hour or whatever, will always happen. And the playground is there. The playground won't run away. Because I think at the back of the insecurity that they may not be even able to verbalize is, will my fun time end? You know, how long will we come again? There is no consistency even for some parents who go on a consistent basis, maybe every Monday or every 135, at least, and tell the kid. Because sometimes it's in our schedule, but us not telling the kids means that they don't know there's a routine there for them.
Yeah.
But us and just communicating, sort of like at least and like, okay, there's a second time if it doesn't rain, right? And then there's a third time. And after a while, in exactly what you say, there is such a dependability, like, hey, we come back again. Okay, the fun is going to continue for as long. It's no more just a very myopic kind of view towards this particular activity.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask, right, moving on next to time, okay, specifically time. I think the truth is in Singapore, we're also busy. We are hard pressed. I would think our scarcest resource is really time, not money, not anything else. And as parents, you know, because we go boom, 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 boom so fast. So I want to ask you, you know, how do you get your cooperation given that we have no time? So I've got a lot of things to do on my mind, and in the moment you are not cooperating. How? Yeah.
That brings to my morning rush.
Yes.
You want to get them you want them to have enough sleep. But then you also need them to have their breakfast, change, put on their socks, put on their shoes, and then everybody gets out the door, right? In the meantime, you still have to get ready.
Yes.
And that's going to take time too. So you don't have the time to be hassling, you know.
Yes.
So of course, there's going to be initially, you know, when the kids first started school, there were always going to be issues with that, you know. And I think that you have to, when there's a new routine in place, there always needs to be an adjustment period, and to be patient during the adjustment period, and to help the child to explain, because this age group, they have no sense of time.
Yes.
Zero concept of time. Everything is last time, but your last time is like 1 hour ago, 2 days ago, last year. You know, there is zero concept of time. So, I mean, frustration, yes. I own the frustration, definitely, because you're going to be late, I'm going to be late, you know, everybody's going to be late. So we do talk about this when we get into the car. So there will always be a bit of grumpiness, irritation, everybody just hassling, put on your socks now. You know, the monster voice comes out just so that everybody gets things done. And sometimes we acknowledge, you know, we don't always have time to be patient also.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's really just get it done, and then we debrief after. You know, actually, we need everybody's cooperation. You see, when everybody cooperates, that's when we are able to get things done. So then we always debrief about it. You know what happened this morning, right? Mommy got really angry because we were running out of time. You know, it's important for us to be on time about things. We don't be late for school. We don't want to be late for work. You know, so you're also helping them to understand why this is important, you know, and then to own up when we do get impatient and frustrated.
Yeah. I think for me, when I started working, and that's why my youngest is not homeschooled but put in school. So we do encounter that the morning where they wake up and they just don't want to, they just refuse, and they're stiff like a board on the bed and just refuse to get out of bed. But they have to go to school, and things like that. And what I have discovered is the way in which the child is woken up. I discovered this last week is the way in which the child is woken up will set the mood for them. Like if we're telling them, come, wake up, we're going to be late. Then they are all frazzled, and then the mood just goes downhill from that. But I've discovered that, and it's when we wake them up nicely, gently. I will always cuddle my little one, cuddle, and I'll kiss her and say, oh, it's time to wake up. It probably takes a little bit more time on my part, but there's no fight after that. Yes, it sets the tone because they feel that they are loved. They feel safe. They wake up happy.
It's also preparing them actually. So the night before, reminders, when you go to bed, tomorrow we need to wake up early because there's school. Remember we need to go and get this done.
Yes.
For little kids, it's really setting a very clear schedule. This is, and with pictures, this is wake up time, this is what time. So they're also learning about time and clock and all that.
Yeah.
So
the pep talk the pep talk is really important. Even going to the playground, the pep talk.
Because when they know what to expect, then they can cooperate a little bit better rather than that this is thrown on me, I have no choice, I don't know what's going on, I'm going to resist because I don't know. And I want to feel that I have a sense of control. Because it always is about feeling, like to have a little bit of control for children, because that's what they're learning about boundaries.
But of course I understand that when we have to go,
Yes.
So we have no choice. And I still remember, like for my littlest one is we were just say, I'm sorry, but we just have to go. And I would carry her and I would take her shoes in my hands because she just doesn't want to put them on. And it's very hard to struggle putting on shoes for a kid who doesn't want. Then the fight becomes even bigger. So we just take the whole problem away and say, we really have to go. And I'll carry her, take her shoes, and we'll walk. And as we walk, I will be very gentle. I'll be very gentle with her. I'll be talking with her and say, I'm really sorry. I really know you don't want to go, but it's time for school, etc., etc. And I'll give all kinds of explanation, But because I'm calm internally and I'm also soothing towards her, and I'm cuddling and hugging her when I walk. So the touch and the feel for her is she feels love. She feels gentle. She feels the gentleness, and so there's the hardness will be released from them. But if we're very firm and we know we struggle with them, we fight with them, we hug them and just drag them along, then the fight will extend. It's always how do we disarm them nicely, gently, then they will respond to us.
Yes, I'm just like my son this morning, right? So yes, I fully agree. It's like, when there's a power struggle, right? Let's say this is the parent, this is the child. The child is pushing back. And if we choose to engage, guess what? Immediately there's a power struggle. But if we choose to disengage and we walk away, because we as the adult with our executive functioning would be able to then hopefully model for them self-control. And in doing that, right, that is where, yes, there's no one else to fight with, right?
Yes.
So many ways of doing this, right? Either walking away, literally, because sometimes as parents, we are in the heat of moment. I mean, I am, right? I'm like, how dare you? And I'm like, I don't even trust myself to be there. So I physically remove myself. I walk away so that I can be in a much better space. A second way, like what you said, pick them up and just love them. Allow our gentleness, our softness to overwhelm their tantrum and whatever they're going through. I think that really makes a difference. Go on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I've got a few questions. So this is a playground question. It's hard to get friends at playground together. How to get my daughter to make friends at playground? Playground question. So this is a social question. Not many friends, and so I'm guessing that you're bringing your child to the playground because you want that social interaction for among peers. So how do we encourage that?
Depending on the age group also. Because I think when they're about below three, it's more about parallel play. They don't really know how to engage with others, but they will play together side by side, but not really interact.
Each doing their own thing,
but that's age appropriate, that they just kind of do their own thing. But of course, as they get older, then it's quite a loaded question because it's not just about playground. It's also about school. It's also about other situations, social situations. And I think for children, a lot of it is also what they learn is also from parents. Do we have social anxiety also? Do we, have anxiety making friends? Do we have anxiety initiating conversations? I think something that we used to teach our daughter is that just ask. Can I play with you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. If you see somebody's having fun,
actually, really,
can I
it's
join
just
you?
that. Yeah.
Can I just join
Encourage
you? Can I
them
play
to
with
ask.
you?
Yeah.
Or would you play with me?
And
That's
to
what
help them to know that, what, not everyone's going to say okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people, some people might ignore you, some people might just blatantly say no, some people might run away. And that's okay, like you don't always want to play with other people too, right? So, sometimes kids will want to play with you, sometimes they don't, so
right.
Just telling them that it's okay. And we don't always expect that other people will also sort of reciprocate in that way.
Yeah.
I love the distinction you drew between, so if your kid is below 3, right, parents, don't force them to play with someone, especially if a relative or a cousin comes over to play. It may be an older cousin who knows already how to play with, but in exactly what Andrea you're saying about parallel play, right? Kids lower than 3, they are very happy playing by themselves. And it's not that they don't want to share, it's I'm in a war, my own, with my own. And that is a necessary developmental stage. So don't make them feel bad or wrong or judge for being normal. That's them being completely normal. But us sometimes in our anxiety to show that my kid very sociable, or it's our need to look good in front of people that we not coax, we coerce them into why you so never share your toys, so selfish, and we begin to label them unnecessarily. So give them that space, and then slowly begin to just encourage them, because different people, like what you say, different circumstances, different places, different upbringing, all adds to something different.
The other thing is that if the child is shy, then they're shy.
Yeah.
Some of us are shy, some of us are not.
Yeah.
And to help them know that that's okay if you're shy too.
Yeah.
Because if we put a certain set of expectations on them to be a certain way, it actually makes things worse.
Yes.
And really, if you're there to attend to the shyness or them maybe feeling a little bit anxious about it, and you're there, then that will actually slowly encourage them to step out of it, rather than to just chuck them there and force them to be sociable.
Yeah, it's. I mean, as an adult, there are many different. All of us have got different personalities. When we go into a social setting where we do not know anyone, do we just go and just happily go and play with somebody? We or just happily go and join.
Sometimes you want to hang back and observe.
Yeah, you just want to observe. Then maybe you hear a conversation that sounds like something you're interested in. Then we will join in. We don't just go in and just find anybody, and just play with them or interact with them. So I think it's kind of our own expectations about our children. We see them at the playground, they should be having fun. All the kids are having fun. Why is my child on that thing? But I think it's fine, as long as they know we are there with them and they feel secure with us. And if they're playing by themselves, I've noticed that most of the time, the kids who seem to be having a lot of fun are the ones that other children want to play with. So I will always bring some toys for my little ones to play. And then when they're having a lot of fun, other kids will say, can I play with you? And then before you know it, there's a group of them playing together. Yeah. So it's really about having our child feel confident enough to enjoy themselves by themselves.
Our own anxiety?
Yeah, if they enjoy themselves, other people will be naturally attracted to that fun that they have, and they will go and play with them as well. So it's not necessarily always a case of they have to go and join something else. Of course, I will also ask my daughter, if you like what they're doing, you can ask them. Just ask, may I play with you?
Which is a life skill, right?
Yeah, and if they don't, it's fine.
Yeah, to be comfortable whether I'm eating alone
Yes.
or in a group.
Exactly.
And it's fine. It doesn't mean if I'm eating alone, that means that I'm a loser or no one wants to die with me. It's just that I'm comfortable in my own space.
That's fine.
And leading to relationships, right? If I'm always needing, a dependent partner to make me feel whole and complete, it doesn't work that way from the start. So I think it's very powerful to anchor our kids and have fun. If they are kids, great. If there are no kids, then play by yourself.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Use what is around to play by yourself.
Yes.
Okay, another question from one of the viewers. How is it more important to be an authoritative parent or a friend to your child? How do you draw the balance? So viewers, it would be great, right? So I'm getting these questions and thank you so much. It would be great if you can provide a bit more of a context. Otherwise, it's for a targeted answer, more than just broad strokes. So
what was the question? Authoritative?
Is it more important to be an authoritative? So I'm not sure whether you mean authoritative as in the 4 models, where there's permissive, negligent, authoritative, and authoritarian. So I'm not sure which of these two. Or a friend to your child. how do you draw the balance? I think it would be safe to say what this parent wants to know is, you know, a lot of us were brought up with very authoritarian parents, right? And yet there is a new, the younger generation are more aware that didn't serve us. So on the receiving end, we realize, like for you, there was so much fear and I want to homeschool my kids, you know, and for you even, your parents were strict and you decide, no, I want to debrief. So we are beginning to add pieces into our parenting style that we never received. So this parent is just asking, friend or authoritative? When and how do we draw the balance?
Actually, my answer is neither.
Neither, very good.
Yes, actually it's neither. I don't think that we are supposed to be friends to our kids. You know, I know that there is, like, you're right, there is this movement about parents being friends, but you can't be a friend to your child because you are a parent. Friend is two-way, you know. Even if you should never expect, for one thing, that your child will be your friend too, because you should have your own friends. I mean, to start with. But I think the thing is that there is a clear, it is really more about, to me, just being an attentive parent, just being a parent who's available, a parent who's safe, a parent who's there. You know, the authoritarian bit or the authoritative bit, I think that relates more to about, you know, like discipline and things like that. You can be strict, but you can still be, you know, seen as someone safe. So I think end of the day, to be a friend means, to me, it means, maybe the meaning that was being asked is different, but to me, being a friend means there's very poor boundaries. And there shouldn't be poor boundaries, you know. Your child only has one parent, two parents in their entire life, you know. So just be the parent. Don't look to being their friend. They will have plenty of friends.
Yeah. Very good. I love what you're talking, because it's really the cognitive ability to then reason. So how do you reason with someone who doesn't even have the aptitude to reason at that level, like abstract math or things like that, right? And here, it's a similar question, so I want to continue this thread of thoughts. You briefly mentioned the strict tiger parenting you experienced in your childhood. Is there anything you keep from the way you were parented and teach to your own kids, you know, in keeping traditional Asian values? Anyone? Like, so I think, Andrea, I love what you say, because it's not about, but this V thing, right? I'm sure you all have heard about it. Like, when kids are younger, there is a lot. So this V forms the perimeters or the boundaries. And the older they go, there are more privileges that we begin to release together with more responsibilities. But at a young age, I'm not going to tell you, go and wander around the road, have freedom, go ahead. No, it's tighter. The control is a lot tighter, because there's a lot more that we can teach, and it's to
you need to provide a scaffolding.
Socialize them into life, right? So, but as they go bigger, try the same methods. It won't work, right? Try telling your teenager, come home by. It won't work anymore, right? So then maybe the friendship will begin at that level, if friend is what they're asking.
Yeah, I think it's more about that. If the friendship meaning is for your child to be able to come to you, you know, then it still goes back to the same thing. If you are a safe person for your child, they will always come back to you, no matter what.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking, if you're a safe person, even a stranger would find comfort in just sharing with you. Yes. Am I right? Yes. I mean, there are people, security guard there, or even when I buy, you know, they enjoy talking to me.
Because maybe that's the thing, parents feel that, oh, how come my child will readily share all these things with their friends, but then they don't come to me. So I'm wondering maybe if that's the context behind the question. Yeah. So then would it be good to be a friend to your child?
Yeah. I think it boils down to what do we expect friends to do?
Yes.
If we expect friends to be always there when they need you, yes, as a parent, then be a friend, because you always need to be there for your child when they need you, right? So if that's what friendship means to us, then yes, be a friend. But I think, as our children grow older, there will always be things that they will not share with us, no matter what. And we just have to accept that and trust, you know, that based on our how we have parented them, that they would find friends who are reasonable, who are safe, who are logical, and you know, and with our support there for them, they would be safe. You know, the worry is if the way in which we're parented has become so authoritative that we push our children away, and we have absolutely no control over who they want to interact with, or what kind of friendship is good, or what kind of friends, or what kind of circle of friends they should be mixing with. If we have pushed our children that far away, then that's a danger, you know. So for me, I would, I actually didn't think so much about the friend aspect of it, you know, until Andrea explained it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I am not friends with my kids, but I am friendly. I am friendly towards them.
Yes.
That means I am interested in them. I'm always asking them questions about, you know, what their interests are. I'll ask them how their day is, or what they are doing, or what interests them, or what troubles that they may have, depending on, they may look like gloomy and like, oh, what happened, you know. So that sense of concern, that friendliness, yes, I definitely would encourage parents to have that kind of connection with their children, but not friend to the extent that there's no boundaries, you know, whatever your friend wants to do, you're just there to blindly support. We can't, because as parents, we have to be certain role models, we have to set certain boundaries, you know, like Junia said, we have to have that, make sure that they within that boundary, that they play safely, they interact safely, and they grow up safely, you know. And so
and we don't even go to our kids for advice, right? Like I would go to my friend and share with my friend,
of
not
course.
from a
Of
kid.
course. Yeah. So it's more that they feel that they can depend on us. We are connected with them. I think that connectedness is probably what the parent is looking for, not so much friendship. When they ask this question. So sure. By all means, once you're connected with your child, you know, a lot of problems, they will not come to you for all the problems that they have. But those that they feel they can trust you with, they will come to you. Or in the case of my kids, my teens, they are very, very tight and very close to each other, one boy, one girl, but they're very tight with each other. And they will share with each other their problem, which they will never come and tell me. And I'm okay with that, because I know that they are sharing and they are supporting each other. But once in a while, one of them will come and tell me and say, okay, bro is feeling this way, or, you know, so-and-so is feeling this way. And then I will get a sense of, okay, maybe I've done something, especially, they will come and tell me when I have offended one of the teens without me knowing, and they will feel that, the person is too upset to come and talk to me, so the sibling will come and talk to me, that kind of thing. And it's okay, you know. And after that, we will get an opportunity to talk about it. But they feel safe enough to come and share. And I think we want to establish that safety. So this circle of security, regardless of the age, I will highly recommend that all parents just be more in tune with our kids whenever they want to come talk to us. Yeah.
Wonderful. So ending this friend, but I think where I want to put in is, if the word friend, because different people have different interpretations of it. If the word friend is something that you think will serve your relationship with your child in the moment, just tell them, Mommy used to be very harsh with you. From now on, I want to begin to treat you more like a friend. Can you accept me as a friend? So if that word serves the relationship, then bring it in. You know, I think we've looked at the real meaning of it, but I think the intention really is, if that word bridges us, then let the connection be then formed. Okay, now I want to give us a scenario, especially, you know, in this period now, right? So your toddler just snatched a toy from her sibling, both below 6, so crying and upset, obviously. You are a working mom and you need to work on your computer, right? What would you do? Vivian or Andrea? Because I think that's a reality. I think with work from home, this is something that a lot of parents go through, right? Where
that's like every day at my house.
Yes, so how? Okay, so what do you do in the moment? Let's say there's no helper.
So depending on what the situation is, right? So say A has snatched from B, right? And then obviously B is now crying, A is happily playing the toy. So if B is crying, then usually what I'll do is, because we don't really force our kids to share. You know, I know sharing is a big thing, but actually we rather than take turns. So we actually prefer the whole turn-taking concept rather than sharing, because as adults, a lot of times you're not expected to share your things, right? In fact, it's more about turn-taking. So then what we would do is, what I would do is then firstly go attend to the distress. Okay, and point out actually what's happened, you know. Okay, I see that, okay, B, I know that you're crying, you're upset because A snatched a toy from you. A, you snatched a toy from B, and that's why, you know. So I'm actually just stating what has happened first to help them both understand. And then, of course, then helping A to understand that when you do this is what happens. This person is going to be upset, you know. And then after that, let's talk about taking turns. B is not done with the toy yet. Can you wait until B is done with the toy? Right? So then it might have to be taking the toy away from A, giving it back to B, or best if A actually has the capacity to give it back to B. But of course, if A is younger than B, like 2 years old, 3 years old, that's not going to happen. So then it really is, okay, you might have to take it away, you know, if they have the capacity to apologize, they're going to apologize. If they don't, you can't because they're too young. But then helping the older one to understand that this person, you know, like your sibling does not mean to take away the toy from you. They wanted to play with it, you know, so just kind of debriefing the situation rather than kind of reacting on it.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I think it depends. Yeah, like you know what Andrea says, because there are so many the different kinds of scenarios that's happening as well. Who is the one who is snatching, and you know whether did the person snatch because somebody else snatched from them? Yeah, so there's a lot of so-called behind the scenes stories that we may not know, and then the moment somebody cries is because we saw that you've snatched a toy, and then we could have made an assumption. So I always believe that if we just spend a little bit more time just to attend and soothe the thing rather than, you know, taking the cane out and say, okay, I take this away and I snatch. If we get really harsh with them, the end result is both will end up crying and we will get very frustrated. And then, you know, our whatever work we want to do is going to be disrupted anyways. So I would rather, for example, if it's my case, I would put the thing down and just attend to them, even if it's 5 minutes, you know, just take that time, address this issue, talk to them. And what I always teach my children is do unto others what you want others to do unto you. If you don't like your sibling to snatch from you, don't snatch from your sibling. And no matter how old they are, I will always teach the same story, and I'll always teach the same thing, because as they grow up consistently, it's not always, I'm younger, therefore Zhe must let me win, or Zhe must let me have it, or Keke must let me win, you know, that kind of thing. It's not always a case of I'm older, therefore I have mine, and therefore I will win. But it's a case of do unto others what you want to do, others what you want to do. And gradually, again, it is a little things that we teach that they will accumulate over the years, and by the time they are a little bit older, then, you know, this problem will stop happening. But we need to understand that when it comes to discipline and teaching, it's not something that we can just it doesn't
something that happens over time. I think you have to
it has to be a very consistent way of teaching, and we want to teach concepts, you know. So for example, you know, the golden rule is a big concept in my household, and they will always, when they are old enough, you know, maybe 4 years old, 5 years old, they will realize, okay, and then they will learn it and they will do it with other people. And the problem is they expect other people to treat them the way they will treat others, and then they will be disappointed because, like, why is this person snatching from me? Do they like it if other people snatch from them? You know, so that level of comprehension they may not be able to understand, because in this household this is what the rule is and they know it's like that. But when they go out, they go to a playground or whatever, it's different. Then that's where we have to teach them, you know, other
when
children
they're
also
a bit
learning.
older, I think maybe about four onwards, right? It's a little bit better because then they have more capacity.
Correct.
To understand it also, because we
Yes.
can ask them, how do you feel when someone takes your toy? Immediately they'll know I'm upset.
Yes.
Right? So they already have that ability to understand, oh yes, okay, when this happens, I don't like it. You know?
But I think younger children do too.
Yeah.
Because like for my little kids, even when they're 2 years old, they know,
Okay,
would you like it if I snatch, you know? Then they will realize,
Okay, I've got this question that's very related. How to manage if both say the other is lying or beat them first? So, because you're not present in the moment and they are fighting. As the parent, I can't find the truth. So basically, you go into what I'm guessing is you hear an explosion, both are crying, you walk in the room, he.
Oh, that's so common, right?
Yes. How do we then mediate?
You always ask what happened.
He take my toy, she hit me, and both are accusing the other of the same thing, let's say.
Yeah. Then I'll go, okay, you know, when you did this, he got upset. When you did this, she got upset. When he took your toy, that's why, you know, so you'll never find out.
Yeah.
And likely it's actually both.
Yes.
They probably both provoke each other. You know, everyone's upset right now. Can we just take 5 minutes first? You know, so settle everybody first. If they need to talk to you individually, I would go to each of them to address them individually to find out, okay, actually what happened, you know. So you were upset when Kiki took your toy, you were upset when Coco took your toy. Okay, how can we ask him for it? So you'll never find, and I don't think it's important to know actually really what happened.
Yes.
End of the day, you know, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
The point is that someone was upset. Let's go and talk to them about why they were upset, and how they can make things better. If they're not ready to play together, okay, let's go for a snack first. Let's take a drink, then let's come back.
Yeah. I think this truth seeking is quite inherent in us because we want to have that justice, right? But I think when it comes to little kids, both sides of the story could be true.
Yes.
It could be absolutely true, and yet both are wrong, right? And how do we get to the bottom of it? And if we detach ourselves and say, you know what, it doesn't matter exactly what happened. The fact is both of you are now upset. We just need to settle this. And whatever it is that happened, we just let it go. Unless we know for sure what happened, there's no point punishing. I grew up with, if both my sister and I fight, both will also get caned because you all fight each other.
And you don't want to take sides.
Yeah, but you don't want to punish both too, right? Because it's like, for me, it's like, why did you cane me? I didn't do anything, Why did I get
I think
caned?
the other important thing, right, is that just because someone is crying doesn't mean that that's the victim.
Correct.
Because I think there's a tendency to, especially usually the younger one will cry, right? And then immediately it'd be very easy to blame the older one. Yes, that's always the assumption. Oh, the younger sibling cried, therefore it must be you that did something.
Yeah.
And then the older one will always feel terrible.
Correct.
But I think it's also important to, after attending to the one who needs more first, right, to then go back to the other one and to say, okay, actually what happened? I know that you were also upset. Just because you're not the one crying doesn't mean that you're not upset. And you might think that you're in trouble now, but I really want to find out what happened. And you're not in trouble. Likely they were also provoked in some way.
Yes.
So you were upset and therefore you did this. So that's the organizing of their feelings.
I love what you share about, number one, diffusing the situation first. So everybody time out, right? Separate them physically if necessary. And then after that, processing with different ones. Because some may take a faster time to calm down. And the other may not even be willing to share until maybe later in the evening.
That's right.
And then, but never let the incident go without that processing with them. Because that's where the more processing we do with them, that's where we almost curb that behavior in future from being repeated.
Yeah, and I think it also helps them to realize, because when we say, okay, you know what, right now you two are just in search of emotion, you can't interact with each other, let's just cool down and you go play here, you go play there. It also helps them to realize, you know what, if I'm really upset, all I need to do is I just need to walk away and I just go play on my own, and it's their own time out for themselves, where they will find an opportunity to cool down. So we are helping them to develop the kind of process and the thought process. Yeah.
Wonderful. Looking at the time, I want to bring this to a close and ask, but before I bring it to a close, one more question. How to make the kid more self-controlled by not playing games when they are doing work? So I'm not sure if your child is below 6 years old, but I'm just wondering, right? So I'm going to assume that it is, right? But how do we, I think the heart of every parent is we prioritize. The truth is we prioritize work, whether 0 to 6 years old. But the academic work, right, is so natural for us to think if you're doing work, it's good. If you're not, even we don't know the quality, but that's the assumption that we all have. But playing games bad. And from the start, it's already that biasness that we have, right, between these two activities. So would any of you want to say more about it? Don't play games, do work. How? Or let me rephrase. How do we motivate or encourage our child to spend a balance on both? Yeah, I think that would be more realistic.
If you ask me, from 0 to 6, all they need to do is just play. If you ask me, because I think that's where they learn the most amount, and that's the unstructured learning actually helps them to connect their brains in ways in which we can never imagine. Because we probably will think, okay, there's English, there's math, there's Chinese, there's science, and blah blah, and we segmentize and we make everything into solos. But when the child learns language and math and science all at the same time when they're playing. When they're playing with sand, when they're playing with water, even play with blocks, Legos or whatever, they're learning spatial things, they're exercising their muscles. So that kind of connectedness and non-boundary learning is actually very important for kids under 6 years old. The younger they are, the more they should be playing and not say, now it's time to write, so I should write. I maybe because I homeschool, so I do my own research about education, and I don't feel that children that young should have really very structured form of learning, but more just natural play, because they will learn natural consequences. If I pour this is going to happen. If I throw that, that's going to happen. This is going to topple. And that kind of learning is very priceless for the age. So I'm assuming when you talk about playing games and learning, those are a little bit older, and then it goes on to
computer games. I think it's
Yeah,
computer games. Yeah.
then it's a matter of like boundaries that we will have to set for our children. And at the same time, I would say that I'm not your traditional parent because I homeschool, and my son, my 19-year-old now, but when he was young, he loves to play computer games, and he plays strategy games, you know, like those Age of Empire, those kind of games where he has to build civilizations and all that. But because I homeschool and I know he likes to play games, I actually use the game to teach about, you know, different forms of government, what kind of things we can do to grow a village and things. So it helps him to see real life problems and real applications, right? And then from there, you know, I exposed him to coding, and then he started to learn how to code when he was 10, and then, you know, and the rest just was history, and then he learned coding all by himself. But how we approach playing then becomes, if the child feels that we are always opposed to them playing games, for example, you know what? That sense of rebellion will just come in, and they just want to tussle with you and fight with you, and then they will want to do more. But if you say, you know what, this is a really wonderful game, and you're learning from this, and you can go through that learning process with them. And then after that, say, okay, this is one aspect that is good for your growth, but this is another aspect. So we do not absolutely negate the game playing, I would say, but to say, okay, you acknowledge, empathize, and when they feel that, okay, you're not looking down on me, or you're not, you know, suppressing me, I'm more willing to cooperate with you. I think that give and take then becomes a very
reciprocal.
Yes,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think computer games, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about, and I mean, when I think about self-control, right? Of course, 0 to 6, forget it. No self-control. You know, and this is where boundaries come in. But I think at this age, this is when, because you have good boundaries, they start to learn to have good boundaries for themselves too. So it is not, I'm doing this out of fear, you know, or because if you're parenting by fear, then that's all they're going to learn. You know, any discipline becomes associated with fear. And then there will be no, you know, without the fear, there will be no boundaries.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah, which then becomes an issue later on when they become teenagers and all that. So I think self-control, even for adults, is hard. The reality is that it's even hard for adults. You know, so I think to expect kids to have self-control, that's difficult. But then if you can have good boundaries for them, you know, if you can talk to them about, you know, almost like using games as, okay, if you do 1 hour of work, the reward would then be games, you know, so that works a little bit better rather than 0 games, no games, or that you can only, you know, you must do this first, and then if you don't do this is what's going to happen. So again, that kind of very fear-based kind of parenting and expecting them to have self-control when they in reality don't.
Yeah, I mean, we understand how the brain matures. You know, the brain, the prefrontal cortex that deals with executive function, which deals with reasoning and self-control.
It's not fully developed until I think like
almost
mid-20s.
late 20s,
yes,
late 20s, right? So
exactly.
I don't expect, even teenagers, they do not have that kind of self-control, you know, and so it's hard to expect that.
Yes, and yet something that I do with my kids is delayed gratification.
That's
So that's something that they can understand.
Yes.
And from small things, right? So you can eat the sweet now, or I will give you 2 later. And that slowly builds up to help them understand. But let's move on now. So any last words, any last advice that you all would like to share with our audience?
I would say for 0 to 6 years old, for most parents, is really to pick your battles, so to speak, pick your fights. And because the more we try to control every single thing, every single behavior, every single misbehavior, so to speak, the more the child will fight with us. So just pick what is really essential, and then the rest of the time, give them control, give them choice, and then the more choices and control they feel they have, the more they are willing to cooperate with you once in a while. You know, but if every time they feel they cannot do anything, they will fight every single opportunity. So to reduce the number of fights and to have discipline without any drama is really to just pick what is essential. Yeah.
Wonderful. Pick your battles, parents. Andrea?
I think for this, you know, 0 to 6, just really enjoy your child.
Yeah.
You know, enjoy this age. It's such a wonderful age. It's at an age where they need you, where, you know, you're still needed. After that, they are really just going off and doing their own thing. And I think a lot of it is, you know, a lot of parents expect their child to be an extension of them almost, you know, and I think to be mindful of that your child is they are really just their own person. That's all it is. And to look at them, you know, with new eyes all the time, to be curious about the person that they are now and the person that they're going to be, that they can't be what we want them to be, and they will find their own way, you know. And some of the problematic behaviors that we think now, too loud, too assertive, you know, like too strong-willed, all those, too stubborn, actually may be quite positive traits later on.
Yes.
Even the child that is maybe shy or introverted, you know, hey, this could be a really sensitive and, you know, like caring person later on. So there is no bad children, you know, and no children that are out to get us or make our lives difficult. So just cherish and enjoy them and just be curious.
Yeah,
wonderful. I love what you say about discovering each child and allowing them to blossom for the unique being that each of them are. So parents, I do have a few more questions, but as you can see on one of the screens, if you can scan that QR code, tonight there's going to be a parenting workshop. It's completely free. It's going to be a very short 1 hour workshop, so it's interactive, where I will make it a point to answer questions like, naughty corner, yes or no? Is it healthy to have a naughty corner? That's one thought. Do you have good examples of how to model good behaviors, habits, and values to your child? Example, if you have an argument with your spouse, you know, how do we then do that? So I think there are a lot more questions. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. Today is just day one of a 3-day parenting series from Maybank. So join us tomorrow for ages 7 to 12 years old and on Sunday for your teenagers. And we will have different experts as well here to share with you different tips, whether it's gaming for the teenagers or even for tomorrow's one, it's I think understanding your kids a lot more. So thank you so much. Remember to hashtag #MSpace at Maybank, cutest family photos. I think they do have a few different vouchers, and they will be looking through for cute photos to be able to then give your select the winners and give your voucher. So otherwise, thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you so much, Vivian, for this amazing session. This is Junia Tan, your host, and wrapping up. Have a blessed start to your weekend. Bye.